3 days ago, I woke up from surgery with 14 missed calls. My 5-year-old daughter and 7-year-old son were sitting on a neighbor's porch alone. And my mom? She was posting selfies with an iced latte. I'm Whitney, I'm 32, and today on the Payback Vault, I'm going to show you exactly what happened when I stopped being the family doormat and started playing hardball. Let me set the scene for you. I'm a pediatric nurse. I spent 8 years cleaning up other people's messes at Ridgeview Community Hospital. 12-hour shifts, night shifts, you name it. My husband Marcus is a physical therapist. Total golden retriever energy, steady, calm, good hands. He was out of town for a conference in Denver. We have 2 kids, Oliver, who is 7, and Sophie, who is 5. In my family, I am what you call the responsible one. But let me translate that for you. Being the responsible one doesn't mean you get respect, it means you get used. In my family, nobody calls Whitney when they have good news. They call me when their dog needs sitting, when they need a ride to a doctor's appointment at dawn, or when they need a 3-course meal for a party they forgot to plan. I was the family mule. And I carried that weight for 32 years without complaining once. But here's the reality check I learned the hard way. When you train people that you don't need anything, they start believing it. They start thinking you are invincible. They start thinking your kids are invincible too. Last Tuesday was supposed to be a nothing burger. A routine gallbladder surgery, in and out in 4 hours. I had it all planned like a military operation, bags packed, emergency contacts printed, a whole manila folder with snacks, allergies, and schedules. I dropped the kids off at my parents' house at 6:45 in the morning. My mom, Diane, is hugging me. My dad, Ray, is making coffee. They are promising me pancakes and cartoon marathons. I remember looking at Sophie clinging to my leg and thinking, they are safe. They are with family. That was the last dumb thought I had before the anesthesia hit. Let me pause here and tell you about the family dynamic, because you need to understand the powder keg I was sitting on. I have a sister, Amber. Amber is the golden child. I don't say that with jealousy. I say it with math. When I was 10, I built a baking soda volcano that won a blue ribbon. My parents missed it because Amber had a dance recital. When I graduated nursing school with honors, they showed up 40 minutes late and left early. Amber had a migraine. When I got married to Marcus in a courthouse, it cost $412. We had burgers and a Costco sheet cake. My mom gave me a card that said, "Proud of you always," and bounced to take Amber to a gallery opening. Meanwhile, Amber's engagement party, 8 months of planning, 30 grand, a custom ice sculpture. My dad took out a home equity loan for it. I'm not bitter. I'm just done pretending that water is wine. So back to the surgery. I go under at 9 a.m. I wake up in the recovery bay at 2:47 p.m. The light is too bright. My mouth tastes like jet fuel from the anesthesia. I look at the clock, then at my phone. 14 missed calls. All from my neighbor, Mrs. Doyle. Mrs. Doyle is 67, retired teacher, lives next door with 2 cats. She doesn't call once. She calls 14 times. My heart just stops, man. I check the texts. First text, "Your kids are at my house." "Your parents left." Second text, "Oliver is upset." Third text, "Please call me." I call her back before the first ring finishes, and here is what Mrs. Doyle tells me. My parents split at 11:30 a.m. The kids were sitting on the front porch of my parents' house, alone, in the May heat. Sophie was crying. Oliver, my 7-year-old, had his arm around her. He told Mrs. Doyle, "Grandpa said they'd be back in an hour." It had been 3 hours. 3 hours of my babies sitting on a porch, watching the driveway, wondering why nobody came back. You want to know what I felt in that hospital bed? It wasn't sadness, it was a chemical reaction. It was the feeling of a switch flipping permanently in my brain. So I call my mother. Diane picks up on the third ring. And get this, she is cheerful, chipper. Like the world is sunshine and rainbows. I ask, "Where are my kids?" And she gives me the line. The sentence that is going to live rent-free in my head until I die. She says, "Oh, your dad took Amber to get her hair done. You know how hard it is to get an appointment with Ricardo." I am sitting in a hospital gown, stitches in my gut, and my mother ditched my children for a hair appointment. Not a hospital visit, not a car crash, a blowout and a trim. I say, "My kids were on the porch. Sophie was crying." And my mother, I need you to hear her voice, says, "Well, your sister needed us more." Now look, I am a nurse. I have seen trauma. I have seen car wrecks and heart attacks. But those 7 words, "Your sister needed us more," hit me harder than any medical chart ever could. Because it wasn't just about Tuesday. It was about 32 years of being told I was too strong to need help. I hung up the phone. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I looked up at those water stains on the ceiling tiles and I made a decision. I said out loud, to no one, "They are done." And that was that. I drove myself home. I know. Discharge. Said not to drive. But who else was going to pick me up? Mrs. Doyle had already done enough. I pull into the driveway at 5:28 p.m. My daughter Sophie sees me and slams into my legs so hard I almost black out from the pain. But I held on. Oliver walks up slow. He's 7 going on 40. He looks me dead in the eye and says, "Mom, I held Sophie's hand the whole time." That broke me. A 7-year-old shouldn't have to be the adult. That night, I put the kids in the bath. I sat on the toilet lid. I watched Oliver spell "mom" in foam letters on the tile, and I pulled out my phone. I went on Instagram. I looked up Amber's profile, and there it was, posted at 10:48 a.m., 45 minutes before my surgery. A selfie in a salon chair with the caption, "Emergency glam sesh. Mom came through last minute." And a comment from my mom with 3 red hearts. "Anything for my girl?" Keep scrolling. 1:30 p.m. Another post. Amber and my mom at a cafe. 2 iced lattes. Marble table, sunshine. Caption, "Brunch with my bestie." That was the moment I was waking. Up in recovery. That was the moment Oliver was making Sophie a peanut butter sandwich in a stranger's kitchen so she wouldn't starve. I screenshot both posts, I printed them out, and I opened a manila folder. That folder became my weapon. I sat at my kitchen table at 11 p.m., high on ibuprofen and pure rage, and I made a list. 6 items. 1. Change the locks. 2. Remove them from the school pickup list. 3. Rewrite the will. 4. Change power of attorney. 5. Update medical directives for the kids. 6. Remove my mom as my life insurance beneficiary. 6 pieces of paper. That was the wall between my children and the people who left them on a porch. Day 1. Wednesday morning. I called Ridgeview Lock and Key. A guy named Dale showed up in a white van. He didn't ask why I was changing my locks while moving like a wounded animal. He just drilled. 90 minutes later, I had 3 brass keys. They were heavier than the old ones. Better quality. I gave 1 key to Mrs. Doyle. I put 1 on my chain. I mailed 1 to Marcus. And I did not make a copy for my mother. That was the first domino. Day 2. Thursday. I drove to Ridgeview Elementary. I walked into the front office and asked Mrs. Holt, the secretary who has seen it all, for the emergency contact form. I took a pen. I drew a single line through Diane Walsh and Ray Walsh. Clean, no erasing, no asterisks. I wrote Margaret. Doyle, emergency guardian underneath. Mrs. Holt looked at me over her reading glasses. She didn't ask questions. She just nodded. That's the thing about schools. They know. They always know. As of 9:43 a.m., my parents couldn't pick up my kids from school if the building was on fire. Day 3. Friday. I went to my lawyer, Sandra Klein. Sandra has done my will since Oliver was born. She has reading glasses on a chain and a candy bowl on her desk. I sat down and slid the folder across her mahogany desk. I said, "Remove my parents from everything. Guardianship, power of attorney, medical directive, every single legal document that has their name on it." Sandra didn't flinch. She just started typing. In 20 minutes, I unwrote my parents from my children's future. I signed in 3 places. The notary came in from the other room. Stamp, 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 done. Day 4, Saturday. I called the life insurance company. I sat on hold for 22 minutes listening to elevator music. When Kevin the agent picked up, I said, "I need to change my contingent beneficiary." He says, "Who is it currently?" I say, "Diane Walsh, my mother." He says, "And who do you want to replace her with?" I said, "Claire Walsh, my sister-in-law, the one who actually shows up for my kids." Kevin processed it. No judgment, just business. That was item 6. Every line on that list had a line through it. I closed the folder and pressed my palms flat on the table. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had the high ground. Now let me tell you about the fallout, because this is the part everyone loves. The phone started blowing up. My mom left a voicemail Wednesday. "Hi, sweetheart. Hope you're resting." Cheerful. Fake. Thursday. "Whitney, why aren't you picking?" Up? Worried. Friday. "This is ridiculous. I am your mother. Call me." Angry. Saturday, my dad, who never says anything, texts me, "Your mother is upset." And then Amber, the golden child herself. She texts me, "You're being dramatic. It was just a few hours. Can you please just call her back?" I read every single message. I didn't respond to a single one. Not because I was scared, because I had nothing left to say. The following Sunday came, 2 weeks post-surgery. Now in Chiutiara, my family, Sunday dinner is sacred. It's the Band-Aid we put over every bullet wound. My mom thought showing up with a pot roast would fix everything. That's Diane's play. Cook a meal, pretend nothing happened, and wait for everyone to forget. So at 5:15 p.m., I hear the engines. I look out the window. Silver Camry, red Civic. They brought the whole squad. My mom is carrying the glass baking dish, rosemary and garlic. She walks up the front porch, and here is the moment of truth. She doesn't knock. She reaches into her purse. She pulls out her key. The old key. She slides it into the lock. It doesn't turn. She jiggles it. Nothing. She tries again. My dad steps. Up. He tries. Nothing. It's like watching a mime act. They can't process that the key just doesn't work anymore. Finally, Amber yells from the driveway, "Just ring the bell!" So they ring it. I open the door. I am not in sweats. I am standing straight. White blouse, hair back, manila folder tucked under my arm like a shield. My mom's face lights up on autopilot. She lifts the pot roast. "Whitney, we brought—" I cut her off. "The key doesn't work anymore." She blinked. "What do you mean?" I said, "I changed the locks last Wednesday. You don't get a copy." Then I pulled out the receipts, one by one. I held up the school form. "You can't pick up my kids." I held up the will. "You aren't the guardian." I held up the insurance papers. "You aren't on the policy." I held up my phone with the Instagram screenshot. You were drinking an iced latte at 1:30 p.m. while my son made his sister a sandwich at a stranger's house. The silence on that porch was heavier than a cinder block. My mom's face went gray. My dad stepped in. Blood is blood, Whitney. You don't throw family away over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Oliver is 7. He made a peanut butter sandwich because the adults left. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a felony of neglect. Amber pushed past them. You are ruining this family over one afternoon. I looked her, dead in the eye. You needed a haircut. I needed surgery. She chose you. End of story. Then the knife twist. Mrs. Doyle opened her screen door next door. She just stood there on her porch, arms crossed, watching. My mom saw her. And I think, in that moment, Diane realized the whole neighborhood knew. The mask slipped for 1 second. Just one. She looked past me into the house. Oliver was at the kitchen table drawing. He had drawn a house with 4 stick figures inside, and 1 stick figure standing way off to the side, far from the door. He had written Grandma next to it. My mom saw that drawing, and for a flash, she looked like a woman who knew exactly what she broke. But Diane Walsh doesn't do accountability. She lifted her chin. You'll regret this. When you need me, and you will need me, I won't be there. I looked at that woman, the woman who missed my graduation, who left my wedding early, who chose a blowout over my surgery, and I said, You weren't there Tuesday. And I closed the door. The lock clicked. Brass on brass. Clean. Final. I leaned, my back against the door. My heart was pounding so hard I thought my stitches would pop. But I wasn't sad. I was free. They left. 3-car doors slammed, engines started, and they drove away. Marcus came around the corner from the hallway where he had been listening. He didn't say, sorry. He didn't say, are you okay? He wrapped his arms around me and said, You are incredible. Then Sophie tugged his pant leg. Daddy, can we have pot roast? We all laughed. That exhausted, real laugh you do when the storm passes? We made grilled cheese and tomato soup instead. 4 plates, 4 napkins, 4 glasses of water. No empty chair waiting for someone who might flake. Just us. So, where are we now? It's been a minute. My mom doesn't call anymore. Either pride or punishment, doesn't matter which. My dad sent one text. Your mother isn't eating. Classic Ray, making her anxiety my problem. I didn't reply. Amber posted a bunch of passive-aggressive quotes on Instagram. Family forgives. Life is too short for grudges. I unfollowed her. Clean break. Mrs. Doyle, Margaret, she told me to call her Margaret, brings over casseroles and watches the bus stop. Marcus is the primary contact on every school form now. We got a Ring doorbell. Not because I'm scared. Because desperate people do desperate things, and I don't take chances with my kids. The hardest question I get is from Sophie. Before bed, she still asks sometimes, Mommy, when is Grandma coming back? I sit on the edge of her bed. I push her. Hair back. I say, Grandma made a choice that wasn't safe for you. Mommy's job is to keep you safe. That's the most important job in the world. And Sophie nods. She hugs her stuffed rabbit. She closes her eyes. Kids are resilient like that. They don't hold grudges. They just adapt to the new reality. Here is the truth bomb I learned from all this. People always say cutting off family is the hardest thing you'll ever do. That's a lie. The hardest thing is staying. The hardest thing is smiling for 32 years while you get table scraps of affection. The hardest thing is handing your children to people who have never put you first and pretending it doesn't hurt. Leaving was the first easy decision I ever made. It just took me 3 decades to earn the right to make it. If you are watching this and you have a relative on your kid's school pickup list who shouldn't be there, change it. Today, not tomorrow. It takes 5 minutes. If you have a will that gives access to people who don't respect you, rewrite it. Paperwork is not drama. Paperwork is protection. That manila folder saved my family. It wasn't revenge. It was housekeeping. And look, I know there are people in the comments who are going to say, but she's your mom. Family is everything. Let me save you the typing. If family was everything, my mom would have stayed. If family was everything, I wouldn't have been the one carrying the tray of champagne glasses at my sister's engagement party while my dad took out a loan for a damn ice sculpture. Blood doesn't mean access. Blood doesn't mean trust. Trust is earned by showing up. And my parents stopped showing up a long time ago. I just finally stopped pretending they didn't. So what's next for Whitney? I go back to work. I watch my kids play soccer. I make dinner for 4 people. I sleep through the night without dreaming about missed calls. My locks work. My will is right. And the table is set for the people who actually want to sit at it. That's the win. That's the whole victory. Not revenge. Peace. If this story hit you in the gut, you know what to do. Hit that like button. Smash it. So the algorithm sends this to every other person who needs permission to lock the door on toxic family. Subscribe to the Payback Vault because we don't do toxic positivity here. We do boundaries, receipts, and brass locks. Leave me a comment. Tell me one person you had to cut off to save your sanity. I read every single one. And remember, just because someone is blood doesn't mean they get a key to your house. I'm Whitney. See you in the next one.